those people that wisely has avoided Obamacare because you didn't want to go onto their website and give away all of your information and become a member of the massive database and an enemies list. The IRS has come right out and flat out, they're threatening you. Threatening. I gotta tell you, I'm getting a little tired of hearing threats from my own government. The government that works for me. There's an article out there on Americans for Tax Reform. IRS warns Obamacare tax must be paid with your tax return. They released it in their healthcare tax tips. How nice sounding. These are just tax tips. One of them was that if you don't obtain qualifying health insurance, as defined by them, of course, you will face a, quote, shared responsibility payment. Shared responsibility payments. Huh. I gotta tell you, I'm tired of liars, politicians who couch everything in nice-sounding words that mean the exact opposite of what they are. You know, I put up a story this morning. I don't want to get off on a complete tangent here, but I put up a story this morning about the Dodd-Frank Act. It is a complete and epic failure. Its principle was that the banks we would be eliminating the too big to fail principle, right? That ate us alive and is still eating us 5 years later. Combined and created by both Bush and Obama and the previous Bush and Clinton and every other traitor that's come before for the last 115 years. Face it, America, we haven't had a president that has worked for this nation since 1900. Starting with Woodrow Wilson and his ilk, they've all been traitors. Traitors. The whole idea was to protect the economy from too big to fail. Hey, guess what? The results are in. There are 29% more big banks and 24% fewer small banks. That's what's called an oxymoron. Just another example of Congress accomplishing the exact opposite of what they call something, or the intention of a bill. This wasn't just another mistake. This was intentional. And everything that your government now is doing is intended to accomplish the destruction, the deprivation, the ruination of this nation. Make no mistake. Everything. And they're doing it in concert. Both parties are guilty. Everyone in this administration, every administrative agency, from the smallest to the biggest. Their goal is the utter destruction and the enslavement of you. Ladies and gentlemen, they're not playing games here. Why is it that everything is couched as something it's not? This is a shared responsibility payment for failing to follow a law passed in 2010 that obviates your Fourth Amendment right against the dissemination of all your private information to God only knows who, not to mention the unintended hackers, who probably are really not unintended after all. And the stripping of your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, because when you fill out the stuff at the website, you are stating emphatically that, one, you recognize all of your information is available to anyone who they deem appropriate. Secondarily, all of the information submitted can be used for the purposes of auditing, investigation, and prosecution. So you're waiving your Fifth Amendment right. And you're doing so because you are forced at gunpoint and coercion by a law passed in 2010 that is obviating the rights that you have had before the existence of the Constitution, given to you by your Creator and nature, from the very, very first existence of sentient man on the planet. This isn't a shared responsibility payment. And let's be candid. This is the high cost of being poor. Those people who are in the upper echelons of income, they don't have to worry about this. What's $95 to them? But a family who makes $20,000, $25,000, $30,000, $100 is $100. It's the difference between whether you're paying the gas bill or you're driving to work. But Kathleen Sebelius and Barack Insane Obama, they've determined that you're going to do and pay your shared responsibility payment. Worse yet, they're not saying that we can withhold $100 out of your refund. They say, if you or any of your dependents do not maintain coverage and do not qualify for an exemption, you will need to make, quote, an individual shared responsibility payment with your return. You will need to make. So even if you are entitled to money, you're going to have to write them a check. The payment amount is either a percentage of your household income or a flat dollar amount, whichever is greater. See, the truth is, I cannot understand for the life of me why America is just not saying, you know what, we quit. We're done. If 10 million Americans got together and said, you know what? We're finished. We're workers, and we're quitting. We're stopping. No more payment of taxes. No more involvement. We're not paying our city taxes. We're not paying our county taxes. We're not paying property taxes. We're not paying federal taxes. We're not paying our mortgages. We're not paying our car payments. We're not paying our credit card payments. We quit! That, ladies and gentlemen, is a real revolt. Everything else is idle chatter. Just quit. You are at the point of a gun. It may be covered up so that you don't see the glaring muzzle and you don't smell the cordite exuding from the end of the muzzle as it reaches your nose. But it is a gun nonetheless. And you can wrap it in all the flags that you want. But when the controlled explosion produces a piece of lead that exits the muzzle at somewhere around 1,800 feet per second and in 3 inches punches through the face of the front of your skull, the truth is still the truth. This is nothing more, and all of this is nothing more than a political threat that comes with real-world consequences in money, loss of liberty, loss of freedom, loss of your right of free speech, loss of your right of your Second Amendment, loss of your Fourth Amendment right to be secure in your person and in your home and your papers and so forth, loss of your Fifth Amendment right, loss of your Sixth Amendment right to have a jury of your peers hear your case. How many cases actually never make it to a jury? The vast majority of them. First of all, those that are heard by administrative law judges, you never get a jury. And those that aren't heard by administrative law judges, your elbow is bent behind your back until you scream uncle under a plea agreement because they threaten such terrifying jail sentences for you that you capitulate. The Eighth Amendment, because it's all cruel and unusual punishment. The 10th Amendment, because your state has been robbed, willfully handed over by your state elected representatives, I might add, of its sovereignty. Ladies and gentlemen, what part of so cooked you can put the fork in because we're done don't you get? And you got this piece of garbage standing there before thousands and thousands and thousands of supporters saying, "You're doing God's work." Every minister, every priest, every nun, every pastor, every rabbi, every imam in the nation should be up in arms at a statement like that. I don't care what religion you believe in. I don't care if you're an atheist. That is blasphemy. This is a guy who has stood there and betrayed every principle of your religion. What religion do you have? What? Find me one religion out there that supports same-sex marriage. I don't really give a darn who you sleep with. That's none of my business. But if you believe in it, if you practice, if you believe that God looks down upon that, then why aren't you outraged that this man is standing there claiming to hold the scepter of Christ in his hand? It makes me sick. He's claiming to hold the scepter of Christ in his hand. God! While he turns around and says, "And if you don't play by my rules as handed to me by God, I will punish you at the point of my gun." Ladies and gentlemen, if that's the America that you choose to live in, good luck. You have become drunk. You have become inebriated. You have become anesthetized. You are allowing the thief within your home. You've handed him a key. You have laid out rose petals at the front door and the finest of your finery for him to walk upon. When will you stand? When will this nation recognize that this is a man of pure, unimaginable evil? And that the people who are doing his bidding are not doing God's work. They are the minions of evil. Where is it God's work to persecute people who have a different opinion and viewpoint than you? Find that for me, please. Old Testament, New Testament, Quran. I don't care. Find it. Anywhere. Find me somewhere in there where it says, because you disagree with me on the politics and ideology, I have the right to utilize something called the IRS to persecute you. Find me anywhere where it says in there, in your personal book, whatever that belief system may be, that you should take this man's word over his works, over the evidence right before you. If you believe in the Bible, then I'm going to tell you right now, you better start reading Revelation, because in there it says there will be many who will be false prophets and claim to be mine. But you're silent. You say nothing. You're making a big deal out of this. This is just an issue of the IRS and some penalty. No, it's not. That's your mistake. You pretend to say, I can excuse action after betrayal, after action after betrayal. To what end? The lies that he told to get everybody to agree to this, was that all part and parcel of God's work? Think God approved? Find me somewhere in your religious text where it says, it's okay to lie as long as the ends justify the means. Unless you believe in the religion of Machiavelli, you're not going to find it. The truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, that it doesn't matter what religion you believe in, and it doesn't matter even if you're not religious. In fact, if you're not religious, if you're an atheist, then this is adding insult to injury. Because this guy is actually claiming to be the representative of someone you don't even believe in. And he's making you do things in that person's name. Is there anyone more dangerous to life than a fanatic who believes that he's doing his work in the name of God? I mean, between governments and organized religion, there aren't a whole lot of other deaths, ladies and gentlemen. There's a couple of isolated crackpots out there, but let's be candid. I mean, in the overall scheme of things, virtually all of the deaths at the hands of other human beings have come from politics or religion. And this guy merges the two. You can go out there and you can play the Romans 13 game with yourself if you're a Christian believer. You go right ahead and do that. You can continue to betray the tenets and the beliefs that you espouse. If you're a pastor or a church leader, a lay minister, if you are a priest, a rabbi, or an imam, and you are not standing against this, if you are not fighting this evil being put upon man by men in the name of God, then you have utterly failed. If you are trying some desperate method to keep this from your constituents, or you are a politician, make no mistake about it. And if you're keeping it from your constituents and your congregation and your flock, or whatever little euphemism you like to use, and you are not making this a subject matter of virtually every sermon that you do, then you are guilty of an unpardonable sin. Because you know what? Men may not hold other men to a higher standard, but God will hold you to a higher standard. Because you stepped up and said, I heard his call. If you're not fighting this, if you're not fighting against evil personified by a guy who says you're doing God's work when you do my work, if you are sitting there and allowing that same person to direct an IRS who says you have to pay your tithe or else, because it's a shared responsibility payment. I have no respect for anyone that is silent in the face of danger when they have stepped up to be a leader. You don't have to be a religious organization to be incensed by this. You can be a member of a VFW hall, a civic organization, school board. It can be 5 friends who meet once in a while in the living room and discuss the world. You can be one of 6 guys who routinely go out and have lunch together at work. You're a leader, whether you like it or not. And if you are failing as a leader, whether you know it or not, or like it or not, you don't have a choice. You're either leading your family. I don't care if you're leading 1 or 1,000,000. Leadership comes with an obligation to tell the truth. The question is, are you telling the truth? I would encourage you to send this to someone else. Your pastor, youth pastor, lay pastor, elder in the church, maybe a deacon, maybe the minister or the pastor or the imam or the rabbi himself. And then I would ask that you watch it with them, and at the end of this, begin the hard challenge of saying, why have you forsaken us as a leader? We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to talk about black pastors who are saying, impeach Eric Holder. And here's my question. Where are all the white ones? We'll be right back.